everybody. My name is David Farmer and I'm the CEO of Central Coast Council. I remind councillors and all that are in the chamber that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public, so please be mindful of your actions and your comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in Council's archives. Could you please turn your mobile phones off or switch to silent? And I would like to remind councillors to turn their microphones on before speaking and off again when no longer addressing the council. I'd now like to invite Stephen Clark, the Central Coast Town Crier and 2024 National Town Crier Champion of Champions, to perform a short welcome.
Eaton, John Mullen, Helen Crowley. Gosford West Ward, Trent McQuaid, Belinda Neal and James Smith. The entrance ward, Rachel Stanton, Margot Castles and Corinne Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. A very spectacular opening. I'd like to officially welcome everybody to the first meeting of the newly elected Central Coast Council and extend a warm welcome to all the councillors, family members and friends present in the gallery tonight. As the CEO of Central Coast Council, I will be chairing this meeting until such point as we have an elected mayor or the councillors determined to appoint a chairperson. At this time, 6:31 p.m, I declare the meeting open. I'd like to start by acknowledging country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. We pay our respects to Darkinjung country and elders past and present. We recognise a continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homeland and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. I'd like to now point out that it's open for the council to elect a chairperson from amongst themselves. Please note that the Code of 12.5 Council's meeting practice states that the voting shall be open means and a show of hands. So I seek a motion to elect a chairperson.
So move.
I have a motion moved to elect a chairperson from Councillor Eaton. Do I have a seconder? I have a seconder from Councillor McNamara. Do I have any discussion? If I have no discussion, I then put the motion. All in favour? Any dissent? In that case, that is carried unanimously. And I now will conduct an election for the chairperson. If I could please have nominations for chairperson, please.
I've got a nomination for Councillor Eaton. Second, Councillor McQuaid.
candidate here, eh? Seconded. We'll do this from here. Seconded, Councillor McQuaid. Any other nomination, Councillor Walsh?
I nominate Councillor Neal.
And is there a seconder? Councillor McGregor? And Councillor McGregor? Are there any other nominees? In that case, we'll proceed to an election, and the election is to be done in a different fashion as it would happen, slightly to the election of the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, which will occur very soon. It's being guided by Section 7 of the Code of Meeting Practice, and it shall be done by a show of hands. And it says, if at an election of the chairperson, 2 or more candidates receive the same number of votes, and no other candidate receives a greater number of votes, the chairperson is to be the candidate whose name is chosen by lot. So if it is equal, that goes into that box there. We will put the 2 names folded into that box. Could I also point out that we have attending via video link Councillor Moulin, and he is eligible to vote in this election by show of hands. So in the order of the nomination, which was Councillor Eaton, could I have all
Point
those...
of order, Chair.
Pardon?
Point of order, Chair.
Sure.
In relation to the declaration that you just made, it is my submission on a point of order that the Councillor Moulin, who has not yet sworn his affirmation and also is not present in the meeting, is not entitled to participate in the meeting until there is a decision of the council to therefore admit him. I do reference the provisions of the Code of Meeting Practice, which suggests that a person who is applying to participate via VCR can participate in the decision, but at this stage we have no application before us to allow him to apply to be dealt with in VCR. If you have a look at the agenda, there is no such agenda item listed on the agenda.
We have under Code 6.29 of the Code of Meeting Practice, says this code applies to a councillor attending the meeting by audio-visual link in the same way it would if the councillor was attending the meeting in person. Where a councillor is permitted to attend the meeting by audio-visual link under this code, they are taken as attending the meeting in person for the purposes of the code and will have the same voting rights as if they were attending the meeting in person. So, to me, and that's Code .629, and Code .624 says, a councillor who has requested approval to attend the meeting in council of the council or a committee by the council by audio-visual link may participate in the meeting by audio-visual link until the council or committee determines whether to approve their request and is to be taken as present at the meeting. The councillor may participate in a decision in relation to their request to attend the meeting by audio-visual link. So, in that case, I rule that...
There's no response to it.
There's no response. There's an opportunity to move motion of dissent against the chair by any councillor, and a motion of dissent can only be, it must be moved and seconded and can only be spoken to by the councillor moving the motion of dissent and by the chair. So a councillor who has requested approval to attend a meeting of the council, I'll just do that again, a council or committee of the council by audio-visual link may participate in the meeting by audio-visual link until the council or committee determines whether to approve their request and is to be taken as present at the meeting. The council may participate in a decision in relation to their request to attend the meeting by audio-visual link. I think that Code of Meeting Practice, which is based on the New South Wales Office of Local Government Model Code, is quite clear in that process that the councillor attending by audio-visual link can attend until the matter is determined. If the matter is determined, then the councillor, in the negative, then the councillor can no longer participate and must be disconnected. But if the councillor is entitled to, they can continue in the meeting. But that matter hasn't been considered, and clause 6.24 stands. So I believe Councillor Mooland is entitled to participate in this vote. However, the meeting is open to a motion of assent should that be the case.
I moved consent in the chair.
Yeah. We have a motion of dissent. Do you want to speak
Point
to
of
that?
order, we need a seconder for that motion.
Yes, we will need a seconder. Could I have a seconder? We have a seconder for the motion of dissent. Moved Councillor Neal, second Councillor McGregor. Councillor Neal, would you like to speak to your motion of dissent?
I will, thank you, Mr. CEO, or General Manager as they used to call them. The point that I've made seems to have not been taken in because, yes, it is true that a person who has made an application to participate by video can participate in the meeting. The point that I am making is that, in fact, though Mr. Moreland is showing on the video camera that there is no application before this council that he can participate by VCR. It is not listed on the agenda. I've not seen any letter received asking for him to participate in that way. And if it is not before the council at this time, then he does not have the right to participate in the meeting in order to vote in this present election. I also wish to draw the attention of the meeting to the fact that Mr. Moreland presently has a conflict of interest that he has not declared, a matter which I foreshadow in relation to if there is a further application.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. It would be on the basis of relevance. This claim that you're making has no relevance on this particular matter, on this motion.
I'm on my feet. I've just been interjected on. You can't actually interject on a procedural manner.
I'll hold Miss Councillor Nell's position. You continue.
Thank you. So what the situation is that the Code of Conduct specifies that a person who has made an application to participate by VCR can participate in the meeting until the decision is made to reject him. Mr. Moreland has not made an application. There is no matter before this council. There's nothing in the agenda which indicates that there is any application before this council meeting.
In response, item 1.2 on page 6 says on the 3rd of October 2024, Councillor Moreland made a request in writing to the Chief Executive Officer to attend the extraordinary council meeting on 8th of October by audiovisual link. The request indicated that Councillor Moreland would be in Europe at the time of the meeting, and this was the reason he would be prevented from attending the meeting in person. Clause 6.21 of the Meeting Code of Meeting Practice provides that Councillor may attend and participate in meetings of the Council by AV link with the approval of the Council. Such requests must be made in writing prior to the meeting in accordance with 6.21. So, in response to the submission, it is listed on page 6 of your agenda. There is a motion of dissent. Now, can I be very clear that the councillors voting yes to the motion of dissent are voting to overturn the ruling of the chair that Councillor Moreland can participate in the meeting. Is that correct? Let me just be really clear. So there's a ruling that Councillor Moreland can participate in the meeting. The dissent is essentially that. Sorry.
Point of order, Mr. General Manager. The motion of dissent is a motion in your ruling.
And where's my ruling? Is my ruling
the matter of whether Councillor Moreland can or cannot participate in the meeting is a decision that the council only can make, and that matter is on the agenda later.
Yeah. So the ruling is that he can participate in the vote.
The ruling isn't that at all. It is that your the motion of dissent is that your ruling is incorrect,
Yes.
which doesn't, in my view, give a positive. So effectively, your ruling is overturned.
So
But I don't think that gives you the answer that there is a positive to it. It's only a stop.
Okay. I want the minutes to be really clear that I have noted that according to the Code of Meeting Practice, Councillor Moreland is eligible to vote on the motion that you have put, or on the conducting and holding of the election. So I have ruled that the 14 councillors in the room plus Councillor Moreland are eligible to vote in the election. Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor McGregor, have moved a motion of dissent that is not a correct ruling, and therefore only the 14 councillors who are going to attend.
Mr. General Manager, can I move a procedural motion that this vote be deferred pending the election of the chair, because I think it's putting you in a very difficult position, and I'll move that procedural motion.
Point of order, Chair. There can be no procedural motion before the Chair when there is a dissent motion before you.
We have to deal with the motion of dissent, and we can't deal with the election of the chair because that motion of that procedural motion by you, Councillor Eaton, involves specifically the election of the chair. So, can I move I just want to make really clear to the councillors on the motion of dissent that if you vote in favour of the motion of dissent, you are voting in favour of Councillor Neal and Councillor McGregor's motion of dissent, with the chair's ruling that Councillor Moreland can vote. The net effect of voting for Councillor Neal's motion will be that Councillor Moreland cannot vote. The net effect of voting on the election of the chair, the net effect of voting against the motion of dissent will be to allow Councillor Moreland to vote. So I make it very clear. Voting in favour of Councillor Neal's motion will allow will mean that Councillor Moreland cannot vote. Voting in favour of Councillor Neal's motion will mean that Councillor Moreland cannot vote. Voting against the motion will mean that Councillor Moreland can vote. If everybody's clear, I will then put the motion of dissent. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, and Councillor Lamont, and Councillor McGregor. Those against, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McNamara, and Councillor Moreland. I declare the motion of dissent lost, and I'll proceed to the election. The election in the order of nomination is Councillor Eaton. Those in favour of Councillor Eaton?
Can we please get? Sorry, I think you read out some of the names incorrectly. Could you please restate them?
I have 4: Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Lamont, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, and Councillor Walsh. And I have against Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor McKenna, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McWade, Councillor Moreland, Councillor Stanton, and Councillor Wright. Okay. And Councillor Moreland is in that list. Yes, that's right. That is lost. So I will now proceed to the election of the chair. Those in favour of, I have 2 nominations, Councillor Eaton and Councillor Neal. I will put those in order of nomination. Those in favour of Councillor Eaton, that's Councillor McKenna, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McNamara, and Councillor Moreland. That is 8. And those in favour of Councillor Neal, that is Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, and Councillor McGregor. That is 7. So I declare Councillor Eaton elected to chair the meeting until the election of the mayor. And I ask him to accept the chair. we'll move to.
So I invite the General Manager to conduct the oaths of office.
Thank you.
I, Laurie McKenna, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully, impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Please sign. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. How are you taking now for the affirmation?
The affirmation.
Okay, so we don't want a Bible? There you go. Could you please read out the affirmation?
Thank you. I, Helen Crowley, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interest of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act of 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Could you please sign
Certainly.
wherever it's comfortable?
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would you like, please? Do you want doing the affirmation?
Yes, thank you. I, Sharon Walsh, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act of 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you.
Thank
Could
you.
please sign?
Can you hang on for a minute, General Manager? I just want to tell the gallery something. It's fine to take photos of any of your family taking the oath. We just cannot have video recorded. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Also, councillors, I'm advised that if you could speak up because some members of the gallery can't hear you when you're taking the oath. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the affirmation, sorry. I, Jared Wright, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Sorry to interpose again. If the security guards, I've given permission for still photos to be taken.
I, Trent McQuaid, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I, Belinda Neal, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much,
Thank you.
David.
I, Jane Smith, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Thank you. Just grab your pen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do that before us. It's better when you're still on your feet.
I, Margot Castle, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Sorry about that.
I, Corinne Lamont, solemnly, and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I, Rachel Stanton, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Could you please sign?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I, Kyla Daniels, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
I, Kyle McGregor, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities, and discretions vested in me under Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Take that. Thank you.
I, John McNamara, swear I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interest of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Please. I'll have to now go and do this.
So handshake done.
Oh, sorry, I missed. I was moving to the fact that
I, Douglas Eaton, OAM, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Central Coast and the Central Coast Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and for the benefit of the gallery, Councillor Merland has previously taken his oath by AVL link with a local solicitor, and certainly I, as a solicitor, am satisfied that that is in accordance with the procedure, and Council has legal advice to that effect as well, and that's why he hasn't taken it tonight, because he's already done it, and he's done it.
Point of order, Chair. You are now speaking from the chair.
There is no point of order because there is no matter currently before the council. You're perfectly able to raise a point of order when there is a matter before the council, which there will be in a second. So we'll move on to the agenda of the meeting, and the first item is 1.1, any declarations of interest. So are there any declarations?
No, but I'd like to move the motion.
Move the recommendation. Is there a second for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor McNamara, seconded by Councillor McQuaid.
Yes, my point of order was that you were speaking from the chair, preempting a discussion of the council that it had not determined and not had. Of course, being in the chair, you would understand the necessity to be impartial, not to preempt a decision of the council. But I would like to also possibly invite Councillor Moreland to declare any conflict of interest he may not realise he's able to from his position.
Well, that's a matter for him, of course. I'm not sure. I don't think there was any point of order there, but we'll move on. So the motion has been moved by Councillor McNamara, seconded by Councillor McWade. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye.
Which motion are you putting?
The recommendation as to any interests being declared, and no interests were declared. So we'll have a show of hands. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 1.2, which is the question of whether the council wants to grant Councillor Moreland leave to appear by AVL.
Chair,
yes, Councillor McKenna.
I'd like to move the recommendation that Mr. Moreland is allowed to join the meeting by AVL.
Councillor McNamara, you second?
Second the motion, yes.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I would like to speak in opposition after the movers have spoken in favour.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor McNamara. Councillor McKenna. Yes, please stand.
I'd just like to speak in support of Mr. Moreland joining the meeting. Mr. Moreland had a family trip overseas, which was booked pre-COVID, and he couldn't get back here in time for the meeting. He has since tried the Australian Embassy in Paris, the Australian Embassy in Madrid. He had got flights booked to Paris from Barcelona, and the flight was cancelled. They couldn't go on the next flight, and the only flight he could get was the embassy was closed. He then jumped on the fast train, got an appointment for Madrid, and went there, and he got sworn in by the highest officer in the Australian Embassy in Spain, and taken the oath, and which has all been forwarded on to Mr. Farmer. So Mr. Moreland has tried outside all boundaries to make this happen, and that's why I suggest and recommend that he gets allowed to join the meeting by AVL. Thank you.
Councillor McNamara.
As Councillor McKenna has said, and Councillor Moreland has emailed the Chief Executive Officer, all of the locations that Councillor Moreland has tried is absolutely reasonable. And one of the things we've got to understand here, councillors, is that he has been elected by the Budgie ward, and it's the Budgie electors that elected Councillor Moreland, and we should honour the democracy from the Budgie ward. Councillor Moreland is now on the screen there. He is doing everything he could to get home. He, as Councillor McKenna said, he went to the Madrid embassy, but then also he attended an audiovisual link with a local solicitor and has provided every reasonable opportunity to be involved in tonight's meeting. As the CEO has already said, some of the points on the legislations and code of meeting practices definitely allow Councillor Moreland to be part of tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Chair. There is the formal matter that is before this council is not whether Councillor Moreland travelled from here and fro doing various things. The matter that is before the council tonight is whether this council meeting should grant the right for Councillor Moreland, to attend this meeting when he has not thought fit to bring himself back here to attend. The first item that's required in making an application is the council to actually make a formal written application to the General Manager to actually attend. And I read from item 6.26 of the Central Coast Code of Meeting Practice adopted by the former administrator. If a council, a request by a councillor, 6.21, a request by a councillor for approval to attend a meeting by audio-visual link must be made in writing to the Chief Executive Officer prior to the meeting in question and must provide reasons why the councillor will be prevented from attending the meeting in person. Now, we have been provided by a substantial amount of material by the General Manager prior to tonight, and nowhere in that material we were provided was a written application by Councillor Moreland to actually attend this meeting by audio-visual. On that basis alone, this council is not even competent to consider an application. A mere verbal discussion or a suggestion via other parties is not sufficient to satisfy the provisions of the code, and therefore his application should not be considered. The further more substantive motion or matter is that in fact Mr. Moreland has not given an oath or affirmation. And this is a fairly serious matter. It's not trivial. It's not something that we should take lightly. And that is under Section 233 of the Local Government Act, where it's called Oath and Affirmation for Councillors. It says a councillor must take an oath of office or make an affirmation of office at or before the first meeting of the council and after the councillor is elected. Now, we did seek legal advice about this matter, and I note that the vast majority of both the address of Councillor McKenna and Councillor McNamara was about the sort of activity that was undertaken by Councillor Moreland. But on the council's own advice that we undertook in relation to this matter, they say, however, in all the circumstances, we do not consider that mere personal inconvenience to a councillor attending before a legal practitioner in Europe while travelling is a sufficient excuse for a failure to comply.
Councillor Neal, I'm informed that your 5 minutes is up, and I have to say, I'm relying on the advice of the staff that your time has expired. And I'm having trouble with the technology here as to figuring out where the timer is.
I seek an extension.
That's a matter for the council. You'll have to move that.
You would normally allow someone to finish their sentence, Mr. Chair.
I'm happy to let you finish your sentence, Councillor Neal.
That clearly, even the legal advice, firstly, there is no application before us in written form in order to satisfy the meeting code that it will allow us to actually grant this entitlement to attend the meeting. And secondly, that Mr. Moreland has not complied with the requirement for an oath or affirmation to take place. And therefore, he is ineligible to actually attend the meeting.
Thank you. Is there any other speakers against the motion or in favour of the motion? Yes, Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, just a question of clarification through you to the CEO. Could I just get confirmation when councillors or candidates even were first advised of the date of this meeting? I have a vague recollection that even as a candidate, I thought we got an email from council advising of the date of this meeting. Is that correct, or am I misremembering that?
Sorry, I was overseas at that time. But I returned for this meeting.
Anywhere in Spain or France?
Ms. Rakamallara, no, I had leave leading up to the election. Ms. Rakamallara was acting CEO. She might be able to provide that advice.
I would need to check on the exact date, but we certainly provided that information to our candidate information sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Mr. Mayor, I hope that Councillor Moorland is enjoying his trip. It sounds like an amazing trip. It sounds like he's spent quite a bit of money travelling to and fro, and particularly seeking to take his oath. I guess my only comment is he didn't spend any of that money to come back to this meeting, and he was well advised of the date. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against? Otherwise, I'll put them. Sorry, it'll be the right of reply for Councillor Okay, yes. Councillor Lamont, are you speaking for or against?
Against.
Thank you.
I think we have to look at the conflict of interest with Councillor Moorland, and also to Councillor McNamara's point. I know the electors in Budgie Boy voted for Councillor Moorland. However, I think he also had a point of disclosure. He did know about his trip, and maybe if people were aware that he was going on his trip, the vote might have been different.
Thank you. Councillor McQuaid, do you wish to speak for the motion or against the motion?
For the motion.
Yes, proceed.
Just here we go again. So we come here, we want a fresh start. Instead, we're getting into the semantics of this. It doesn't really matter. So let's just move forward, work together as a team, be cohesive, and move forward.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Otherwise, the right of reply. Oh, Councillor McGregor.
I've got a question.
Is that a motion to the motion be put?
Yes, please. We've had 2 for, 2 against. Motion be put, please.
Okay, I'll put the motion that the motion be put. So to be clear, if this motion is put, it's the end of the debate except Councillor McKinnon still gets the right of reply. So it's a show of hands. All those in favour of the motion that the motion be put, please raise your hand. So that's Councillors McKenna, Wright, McQuaid, Stanton, Daniels, McNamara, Eaton, McQuaid, I think I just said McQuaid, didn't I? And Moorland. Those against? Councillors Crawley, Walsh, Neal, Smith. Have I missed one? Sorry. Crowley, I apologise. My sight isn't that good for me, I'm sorry. Crowley, Walsh, Neal, Smith, Castles, Lamont and McGregor, and I declare the motion be put is carried. So, Councillor McKenna, please have your right of reply.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chair. I just think, Mr.
Please stand, Councillor McKenna.
Sorry. Councillor McQuaid, your comments were spot on. You know, we're here to make a change for the better for Central Coast Council, every one of us, the 15 of us, 14 here and 1 overseas. I think it's the right thing that John's, Councillor Moorland, has been allowed to participate further in this forum in here to elect the mayor and the deputy mayor. So I would like to thank everybody, and again, Councillor McQuaid, thank you for your comments. Thanks.
Thank you. So now I'll put the motion, and the motion is that Councillor Moorland will be allowed to participate in the meeting and vote on all the resolutions at this council meeting by AVL, assuming that the motion is in fact passed. So again, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor McKenna, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McNamara, Councillor Moorland, Councillor Eaton. Those against? Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, Councillor McGregor. I declare the motion carried. So we'll move on to the next item which is the oaths, item 2.1. And the recommendation is there.
Move the recommendation.
Move the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor McKenna. Thank you. Any opposition? If there's no opposition, I'll put it. No opposition, all right. All those in favour? I think it's going to be split vote. All right, I'll call out the councillors then. Councillors McKenna, Councillor Crowley, Crowley, I've got that right. Councillor Walsh. Oh, okay, it's unanimous now. Sorry, I'll declare it carried unanimously. Okay, I'll vacate the chair and hand over to the CEO to conduct the election.
No, the chair should seek a.
Oh, sorry, I've got one more, have I?
You need
Yeah.
to seek a motion to elect.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Elect the mayor and to determine the method of voting.
Okay, thank you. Yes. All right, thank you. I've been corrected. So we need a motion as to the method of voting.
To conduct the election.
Chair, I'll move the recommendation with the deletion of 1B and 1C, please.
So can you? Okay, so that's the delete B. Staff, please delete B and C.
B and C.
Yes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Councillor McNamara is a seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor McKenna. You happy with that? Yeah. I think we could take out the or. Yeah, we could take out the word or. No, that's the or after the open voting. That all. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's okay. All right, that's been moved and seconded. Is there any opposition? If there's no opposition,
yep.
I'll put that. All those in favour, raise your hand. Councillor Walsh, in favour? Thank you. All right, I'll declare that carried unanimously. Now I'll vacate the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors, for your indulgence.
As the we have to put the order. We have to. Yeah. I have the responsibility as a returning officer to conduct this election in accordance with the local government regulation. And at this stage, I have received 2 nominations for the position of mayor. That is Kyle Hugh McGregor and Councillor Laurie McKenna. I have those 2 nominations. Before I conduct the election, I need to ask, are there any other nominations? And I will ask 3 times. Are there any other nominations for the Mayor of Central Coast Council? Are there any other nominations for the Mayor of Central Coast Council? Are there any other nominations for the Mayor of Central Coast Council? In that case, no. The election for the Mayor will be between Councillor McGregor and Councillor McKenna. I have, in determining the order of election, I have these 2 names, Councillor McKenna and McGregor. I will fold them, place them in the box. This is only to determine the order in which the votes are called. Let me see, this is a very heavy box. And first will be Councillor McGregor, and second will be Councillor McKenna. So could I, now each councillor has 1 vote, and given there's 15 councillors, I presume that the councillor with the highest number of votes, I presume the councillor with the highest number of votes will be elected as mayor. Those in favour of Councillor McGregor? please raise your hand. Councillor Crowley, Walsh, Neal, Smith, Castles, Lamont, McGregor. That's 7, is that right? Those in favour of Councillor McKenna? Eaton, Wright, McQuaid, Stanton, Daniels, McNamara and Moreland. That is 8. I said McKenna first. We have numbers, so we just do that again. I have Councillor McKenna 8 and Councillor McGregor number 7. I declare Councillor McKenna elected. Councillor McKenna will now assume the chair.
Thank you, and thanks everybody. Thanks for all the support, and looking forward to having a great council and working with everybody in this room, and then hopefully we can make the Central Coast proud. So I sound like Trump. I'd just like to bring a motion about the deputy mayor, determining the election duty.
Yes. Thank you.
Councillor Eaton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I move that Council determines to elect a Deputy Mayor for a term of 1 year from the date of this meeting, and secondly determines that voting be by open voting.
Can I have a seconder?
Seconder,
Councillor
McNamara.
McNamara. Any discussion? Any questions? If not, we'll go to vote. All those in favour of the Deputy Mayor going a 1 year period? Councillor Eaton. Councillor Walsh. Councillor Walsh, was your hand up? Was your hand up there? No. Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels, and Councillor McNamara, and Councillor Moreland. So that's 9. So that's carried. Thank you.
I'll now conduct this election in accordance with the local government regulation, and I'll remove these boxes, and some of this paraphernalia at the conclusion of this election might be a little bit easier for everybody. At this point, I have received nominations for 2 people for the position of Deputy Mayor. I've received a nomination from Councillor Neal, and I have received a nomination from Councillor Eaton. Those names will go in the box. Pardon? Oh, yes, I do. Sorry. I do need to say, are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? No? We can now go to the order. And first name to be called is Councillor Neal. And the The second is Councillor Eaton. In an identical process to that which we used for the election of the mayor, I will call for those councillors who wish to vote for Councillor Neal to please raise their hand. That is Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont and Councillor McGregor. That is 7. And those councillors in favour of Councillor Eaton, it's Councillor McKenna, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels and Councillor McNamara and Councillor Moreland. I declare Councillor Eaton elected as Deputy Mayor for a period of 1 year.
Congratulations on Councillor Eaton being elected as the Deputy Mayor for 1 year. The Council reviews and makes no changes to the instrument of delegation to the Chief Executive Officer dated 26 April 2021. Instrument of delegation. Have we got any?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I've got a motion on this item that I gave to the staff. Hopefully that can be put up on the screen. Oh, so, yeah, this is the CEO, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
If I could have that brought up. So I would move that way. If I have a seconder, I will speak to it.
Councillor McGregor, seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So really the purpose of this motion is just to give the councillors a little bit more time to get an understanding of what those specific delegations are to the CEO. I do understand that many of them, or much of them, are fairly routine matters under other legislation that are purely almost operational in nature. But I think it is important that councillors do get a fuller understanding of what those delegations might mean. And I suppose as a case in point, you know, I do recall the former Gosford Council, the CEO at the time managed or got a change in delegations approved from that council. The very next day, the CEO under delegation approved what was essentially a chicken processing abattoir in our drinking water catchment. So that was unexpected. The councillors perhaps didn't expect that to occur. So I therefore think it is important for the councillors. Are you right, Mr Mayor? Yeah? You might actually recall the incident. I think you were on Gosford Council at that time. So could I request that the matter be deferred to the December meeting? I do understand that it's important to have delegations in place. I also understand that under the performance improvement order that the councillors can do very little with the delegations anyway. But I do think we should be provided with information on those delegations and also be made aware of any changes to their delegations under administration. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I don't think there's any opposition to it, so it could be put.
Sorry, Councillor Eaton. Yeah, just put it to the vote, no opposition. Please show your hands. Yeah, is there any opposition? No. And put it in. Yeah, and vote. Yep, unanimous. Oh, Councillor Crowley. Yep. Thank you. Carried. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Smith.
Just suspend, said motion to suspend standing orders for the town crier. The town crier has to, yeah, just second motion to suspend standing orders.
I seek a motion to suspend standing orders just now so the council's town crier can announce the new mayor, I believe. We need a motion quick.
I'm happy to raise a motion on that.
Councillor Wright, seconder. Councillor McGregor, thank you. Put it all carried unanimously.
Coast Mayor is Councillor Laurie McKenna.
Instrument a delegation for the Mayor. Seek a motion.
Yeah, move the recommendation.
Councillor Eaton, seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor McNamara. Any questions? No? All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor McGregor. Sorry.
Look, I'm happy to do it as a question or I can speak, but is there any interest in actually delaying this to a later meeting as well? Because I don't believe that we've got line of sight over all the different delegations for either the CEO or the Mayor. I know on Saturday it came up about getting an idea around what they were for the CEO, but I'm unclear if that was the same situation with the Mayor. So I'm happy to take that as a question, and if there's a response.
There is some significant merit in having some of the delegations that exist for the Mayor. These are generally traditional delegations, and are things, particularly authority in the case of emergency, where it's not practical to wait for the next scheduled meeting of council to exercise such functions of the council. So essentially, those are the authority to fix a corporate seal, number 3. Otherwise, and to make media and media statements and issue media releases in respect to council. My delegations are already in place, so there is no difficulty in the business of council in the motion that was previously moved. But if this motion isn't moved tonight, there are no delegations to the Mayor in place, and some, particularly the media piece, given they're authorised under the media council's media policy, and some of those emergency powers, I think really should be in place. The last one, which is a recruitment, appointment and oversight of the General Manager, well, that's in accordance with the local government's guidance, but it's probably not urgent. But the other two are probably worth having in place.
All right, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO, is there any variation on the functions of the delegations for the Mayor as what the Administrator had prior to the Mayor's appointment or election tonight?
I don't believe so, but I really don't know. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
So, move that motion. All those in.
Satisfied, Councillor McGregor? You're not in opposition? Otherwise, I'll speak to it.
I was just simply asking questions. I'm happy for you to speak to it, Councillor Eaton. Go for it.
Yeah. No, if there's no opposition, don't need.
No. Sure. All those in favour?
Well, just to clarify,
oh, sorry. Councillor Ray.
Is there actually a motion in place?
Yes. Yes. So, all those in favour? All those against? Sharon? Carried.
Can I have it noted that I abstained, please?
You can't abstain. Point of order, you can't abstain. You've got to be... No, you can't.
No, on Saturday we were told that you can abstain, but it would be recorded as a vote against. So I'm just asking that it be recorded in the minutes accurately that I abstained as per the Code of Meeting Practice.
So, yeah, you can abstain, it still counted as a yes, a vote in the negative.
I think the point of order, sorry, the point I was trying to raise previously was I was genuinely unsure whether Councillor McGregor had raised a motion to delay.
No, yeah.
I think what Councillor Eaton is referring to is the ability to abstain from a motion that you've raised. So if this is the motion as is, then I think that should suffice.
That's all right. The minutes are correct. The minutes are correct.
Yeah, minutes are correct. Next item, 2.6 on the agenda is proposed ordinary council meeting schedule.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, can I move that this be deferred until the November council meeting?
Councillor Eaton, I had the floor.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah. Thank you. I did give a motion to the staff, so if that could be up on the screen, please. So I will move that motion that now appears. If I have a seconder, I'll speak to it. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, so this motion is along the lines of consideration to holding some of our council meetings at the southern end of the Central Coast. As we're all aware, it's a very large area, and as a councillor representing Gosford West Ward, it's probably the furthest distance to travel. I know many residents that find it quite challenging to attend meetings up in this location, notwithstanding the video link. Those that would like to attend meetings are put off by the distance. So what I've suggested is that we lock in the first 6 months of meetings, that the CEO provide a further report as to options to hold meetings at the southern end of the Central Coast. And my understanding, my recollection from the new Gosford Regional Library, that there will be facilities that allow that once it is open. So hopefully this timing works. And part 3 is for us to consider circumstances. Sorry, I'll just backtrack. We currently have 1 meeting a month. I think the experience of many is that that may or may not be sufficient. If you recall, the former Gosford and Wyong both had 2 meetings per month. I'm not suggesting that at this point, but I do think we need to give consideration to that, depending on how our code of meeting practice can accommodate our meetings, 15 councillors, and the debates that we might have. So I move that motion. Thank you.
And Councillor McGregor was seconded that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, councillors, I'd ask you to consider the amendment moved by myself, by Councillor Smith and myself, locking into place our meetings for the first 6 months. As we heard this afternoon, and as people who've read the documents and everything, keep up with the debates, are aware, there is a potential in future to have some equity around meeting north and south with the construction of the new chambers in the Gosford Library. So I'd ask everyone in the interest of collegiality that we support this. So we're here for 6 months. That provides some certainty to the community. But when it comes to the southern end of the LGA and the potential in future to have some flexibility with that, I think it's more than reasonable that if it comes up at the time and it's appropriate that we do consider meeting there. We do have an extremely large LGA. Our supposed capital is Gosford, so it would be interesting to see some focus on there as well. And finally, when it comes to this issue of the monthly meetings or not, we will not have a very good understanding of the tenor of this council from our first meeting. The former council originally was looking at monthly meetings, and it quickly became apparent with the amount of business that you had, and particularly the way that three or four people in that group of councillors were conducting themselves, that it was going to take many more meetings. So hopefully the meetings are swift, efficient, and cover all the issues, but it may turn out that there are times when we may need to have more frequent meetings, or other things may arise that require urgent attention. So just from a practicality point of view, I see no issue with anyone doing anything other than supporting this. It'd be nice to see it go through unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Green.
Yes, I'll move an amendment. That is that this matter be deferred until the November council meeting. If there's a seconder, I'll speak to it.
A seconder.
It's a foreshadowed motion, not an amendment.
Amendment. It's not. It's clearly it's only deferral. It's not. Well, it's a matter for the chair to rule, but it's not negative to the motion.
Take it as a foreshadowed motion. If it loses, take it as a foreshadowed.
Yeah, it's a foreshadowed motion.
Oh, I'll speak against the motion then. Certainly, I've never had a. Anyhow, look. Moving on. There's no real opposition to what's proposed. It's just at the moment we've got one of our councillors overseas. We haven't had a chance to check with him and his dates of availability. And I agree with the comment that more meetings might be required. And in particular, I note that there's no meeting in January, and yet Australia Day is the 26th, when I would have thought all councillors are going to be around, and I think there is some utility in having a meeting in January. But I guess what I'm saying is that in the light of this being the first meeting, it's been very rushed with some issues around councillor attendance. I think a little bit more time to make sure exactly what meeting dates we want, what meeting times we want, will not do any harm whatsoever. I agree with Councillor Smith and even with Councillor McGregor in terms of having meetings at Gosford when they're when it's practical to do so, and with the likelihood that we will need 2 meetings a month, at least in some months. So for all of those reasons, in my view, we will be better off taking a little bit more time and making the decision when we've got a few more facts on the table in about 6 weeks' time. So that's the foreshadowed, and that's me speaking against the motion as it stands.
Thanks, Councillor Rean. Nobody else want to speak? Sorry. Councillor McQuaid.
Yeah, just further to Councillor Smith's point, I met with a number after the election, a few ratepayers in our area, Gosford West Ward, in particular Point Clare. I take a point where we do seriously need to consider moving some of the meetings down south. I met with a lot of elderly people who struggle to get up here and they won't come up here because of that reason, and they jump online, but even that's a stretch. So it'd be good to move down south for some part and get those people there as well.
Councillor Smith, would you want?
No, that's fine.
Right or
Happy to put the motion.
All those in favour of the motion? So Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, and Councillor McGregor. All those against? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Eaton, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor. I've got a missing Stanton. Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McNamara, and Councillor Milland. Sorry. Councillor Milland, did you have your hand up? Yeah, he had his hand up. So, 8-7. Councillor Milland, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Mayor. Can we have a recount? I had a small technical issue there.
Oh,
The motion was lost, and now Councillor Eaton's foreshadowed motion.
Yeah.
Councillor Eaton's
So
foreshadowed motion.
So that motion was lost, I assume. So therefore, I'll just move the motion that this matter be deferred until the November council meeting.
Right.
Can I just
Seconder?
Well, just a point of clarification. The next council meeting is actually at the end of this month.
Yeah, do it October if you want.
So can we just
okay?
Amend
Sorry,
the
make
motion
that
to say
October.
The next meeting, which is in 2 weeks' time, please.
Yep.
Yes,
Thanks.
October.
Councillor Wright.
Is that seconded by Councillor Wright?
Councillor Wright.
Yep.
Using that motion.
Yeah.
Councillor Beside, seconded by Councillor McNamara. All those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Daniel, Councillor McGregor, and Councillor McNamara, and Councillor Milland. So, those against?
Councillor Neal didn't vote.
No, Councillor Neal never voted. No. Okay, she's abstained from voting. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is performance improvement order on the Central Coast.
Yes, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Eaton.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry, Councillor Smith.
I think I was on first.
Mr. Mayor.
Who was in first? You should tell me your screen.
No, Councillor Smith.
So
I wasn't looking.
I gave some wording to the staff, if that could be on the screen.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. According to my screen, I was clearly in first.
I could see both of them as Councillor Smith was fast.
Oh, I might be wrong. Look, I apologise. Maybe I'm reading it the wrong way around.
Thanks, Councillor Eaton. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so that is the motion. The formatting's a little bit over the shop, but that might be my fault. So I would move that motion. If I have a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Has Councillor Smith got a seconder? Councillor Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are all aware of the performance improvement order issued by the Minister, Ron Hoenig. I think there are many questions to be asked about the performance improvement order, not least of which is the legality of it. There have been a number of matters that have been raised with me by community people with some expertise in this area who believe that there are reasons to get some external legal advice about the legitimacy of that performance improvement order. I think importantly it does restrain our council in a number of areas where it is important that we have the ability to consider, amend and set a course for this council. There are some matters that do need to be dealt with within 12 months of a council being elected, such as a structure, reviewing the structure of the organisation, and this would effectively prohibit or make it extremely difficult where the council, and I mean no disrespect to the CEO, but the councillors are dictated to by the CEO or by the senior bureaucrat in the Office of Local Government. And that is not what our democracy is about. Our democracy is about our residents electing people to represent their interests and make decisions in their interests, not being controlled by, again, with respect, bureaucrats within those departments. So the motion notes the correspondence. I will just seek some advice through you to the CEO whether we formally need to table this performance improvement order for any particular reason. I would prefer to delete number 2, but is there a requirement for us to table that at this meeting? And I just stopped the clock.
I think it would be wise to table and acknowledge it, even if the meeting wished to challenge it. I think I think there is a requirement under the legislation. So whether the meeting believes or not it's valid, and whether the meeting wishes to get advice as to its validity, I think we have to take a prima facie and therefore table and note it.
Okay, then I will leave part 2 in. And look, at this stage, I want to be clear that the motion is about getting independent legal advice. Not saying that we challenge it, it's getting that advice so that councillors can make an informed decision about how they might best represent the interests of our residents, ratepayers and the community. Thank you.
Yep. You call? Yeah, I'm in there. That's fine. A question to the member through you, Mr. Mayor. Should we have a 4?
Councillor Mark Lamar, can you please stand?
Sorry. Should we have a point 4 and 5 in there? Number 4, it comes to the cost of the legal requests, and should we ask the other councils that are in that do have a PIO on them to participate and share the cost? And number 5 may be to bring it up, to table it at the local government conference in Tamworth and take it to that conference.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor McNamara does make good points. However, at this point, I would prefer not to include those because I think it will slow down the process. I think there is a cost to getting the legal advice, but we're not talking about a challenge at this point. I think that cost is essential for this group of elected representatives to be able to perform their duties over the next 12 months. It's a cost that is necessary for us to get clarification about the legality of this matter. I do see some benefit in talking to the other councils that have also had PIOs imposed on them, especially after the various administrators got together and had a meeting about it. So I would be happy to add 4, which said that that we seek to engage with the other councillors about actions that they might be taking in reviewing or getting advice on their PIO, if that would be okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith.
Yes, I was rising to speak in support of I was the seconder of the motion, so I'd like to speak in support of it. The performance... Thank you. Is provided for under the Local Government Act. It is an order made by the Minister in order to improve the Council's performance at the time the order is made. There's been some reinterpretation of the improvement order by some people, but clearly the improvement order made at the time prior to this election indicated and is authorised under legislation for a minister who is unhappy with the performance of the council at that time. I think it's really important that we clarify why the minister was unhappy with the performance at the time, to ensure that we don't replicate those problems and in order to improve how we deal with matters in the future.
Mr. Mayor, could we just improve the wording of number 4? I'm not quite sure how best to improve it. The council seeks to engage with other councils that are subject to PIOs to discuss any actions they may be taking. That would probably be a bit better. Thank you. Just number 4.
Councillor Rain.
Yes, I've got an amendment which I've also given to the staff, which is along similar lines, but it does formalise making a motion to the local government conference. So if we could have that up, and obviously I'll speak to it if I can get a seconder for the amendment.
Seconder.
Well, I've given it to the lady, so hopefully it'll come up on the screen. While that's happening, I can basically highlight the differences. Simply that in terms of legal advice, we need it from eminent senior counsel, I've such as Brett Walker. Doesn't have to be him, of course, but it's got to be an eminent senior barrister, not just from our local solicitor. My understanding of the council code of meeting practice and code of conduct is anything that we're spending money on, we've got to identify the source of funds. So there's an extra paragraph: the cost of such advice be funded from council's legal budget. That we do the mayor contact other councils, which I can tell you are Winge Caribee and Balranald, who are in exactly the same situation as this council in terms of the PIO. And then that there'll be an urgency motion to the local government conference. I think it's up there now. And there is a 6, which is fairly obvious, and I'm sure councillors would accept this, that the legal advice be reported to council in open session. So really, the only significant difference is about the motion to the local government conference. So I think it was seconded. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. So I will speak to it briefly. I think all of the legal experts around this room have some doubts about the legality of the performance improvement order, and certainly I do, and simply by the name of it. The order, when you read it, is about maintaining the procedures of council. It's not about improving them at all. It could be called a maintenance order, and that's not allowable under the Act. An improvement order is. And in some ways worse. It's basically an attempt to handcuff us and convict us of some sort of crime that related back to the council in 2017 to 2020, when it had some significant financial difficulties. The people have spoken, the people have elected us. This PIO is a subversion of democracy, and I think we all recognise that. It is outrageous in my view, and we should be pointing that out. But at the end of the day, I'm a lawyer, some other people are lawyers. We need to get the best legal advice we can get and join in with the other 2 councils that are involved in this. And to make sure it doesn't happen again, that's where we need to go to the local government conference and get their support for stopping the minister doing this on other councils when there is no cause. And there's few of the paragraphs that are only contentious. There's a lot that aren't. The restriction on firing the general manager, with the greatest respect to the general manager, is an unreasonable fetter on this council. The requirement to hold briefings in public is absolutely horrendous, and I'm sure other experienced councillors will agree with that. You might as well not have briefings. And the ability not to restructure the organisation is again outrageous, because the Act requires us to review the structure within the first 12 months. And you can't do it because the PIO is in place. So you can't do the restructure, but the Act requires you to do it. I'll just leave that as examples. I commend the motion, but I'm happy to work with Councillor Smith if you wish to put the two together in some fashion. I'm more than happy, but I am quite serious, quite committed to the idea that it should go to the local government conference as well.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think we can combine the motions quite easily. I accept point one. Point two, I think, is already really covered by the motion. If you want to add in urgent legal advice, I personally don't think it's wise to name a senior counsel at this point, but
I'm not fussed about that. Was only an example in here.
I think point three goes without saying and was discussed. Point four, I think, is already in the motion. Point five is fine. I suppose I think condemning might be a little bit premature and unwise at this point, but if there was a better word that the conference, it's close to condemning, but we got a better word. And look, I'd take advice through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO. Reporting the legal advice back before we know what it is would, to me, just seem a little bit unwise. I mean, we can report it in some context, but Councillor Eden, I assume you're not meaning provide the legal advice in open council meeting before we know what it is, are you?
Before we know what it is. Well, how would it be before we know what it is? It's got to come to the council first, I would have thought. It was more about, transparency, and actually I thought I added in the words in open session.
Would there be some better wording, Mr. CEO?
Happy to take advice.
We're in an interesting little piece of meeting procedure here. You can either accept some parts in your original motion with the concurrence of your seconder, which was Councillor Neal. That was correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I might indicate at the outset when I clarify matters that I could not possibly accept item 4, moved by the amendment of Councillor Eaton. Very clearly, Mr. Eaton is game playing some political game. We put up with motion with the intention of informing and enlightening the council, and of course he has latched onto it for the purpose of scoring some political points. So I certainly could not accept point 4. If he wishes to proceed with items 1, 2, 3, and 5, I'm happy to do so.
It's a breach of the code of conduct.
Councillor Neal, you finished? Your light's on.
I don't think I said anything about his motives. I said that he was playing a political game.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure where we're up to in process, but if I could just come back to accepting most of what Councillor Eaton has suggested, I do take Councillor Neal's point in the context that I think it's a bit premature to ask other councils to join us at this point in getting the legal advice. I'm not suggesting any ulterior motives. I just think that's premature. I think if we could proceed, Councillor Eaton, with accepting number 1, number 2 is already incorporated into the motion. Number 3 is already assumed, is already in my motion. Number 4, we've already indicated that we will be contacting other councils that are subject to these PIOs, and I think that's the appropriate level of engagement at this point. The urgency motion to Local Government New South Wales, I'm actually fine with it. Let's add that in, even condemning.
I'll withdraw then on that basis.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Yep, I've just incorporated most of it.
Thank you.
I'm not clear.
Yeah, so
on what he has withdrawn.
so Councillor Reaton, I believe you have withdrawn and
I've
accepted.
withdrawn my amendment, and I think Councillor Smith has accepted some of what I put up, including the local government conference motion, and I'm happy with that now.
So can we just sorry, I didn't, for the purpose of the minute clerks, can we just clarify exactly what is happening so we can see exactly what's on the screen that you're voting on? It's very important that we understand exactly what we're voting on when it goes on the screen. So if the minute clerk, if Councillor Smith can be really clear about
Yep, absolutely.
the
So if we could
adjustment
just go
that she's
back to
making.
part one. So I think that's fine. Part one is accepting Councillor Eaton's. Part two was just the pro forma of tabling the PIO. Part three was seeking independent and external legal advice. And the points are, should be indented and sub to section 3. I might just give the staff a chance to do that. Thank you. Yes, part 4 as it stands, and part 5 is the urgency motion to the Local Government New South Wales Conference. And I think that's the end of it. Thank you.
I think I indicated that I could not accept as a seconder on that.
No, but I'll
If
second
he is
Councillor Smith's revised motion.
I'm actually the seconder, so unless I accepted it, it's not the motion.
Can I have another second, seeing Councillor?
Well, I said I'd second it. Mr. Mayor, yes. Sorry.
Okay.
I said I would second it since Councillor Neal has withdrawn her seconding.
Okay. So all those in favour?
Can we?
Yeah, you now need to debate.
All right.
Now I've got to move for a second of a substantive motion. So just clarify, we now have a substantive motion, no amendment, with a mover and a seconder from Councillor Smith and Councillor Reaton, which is on the screen above, in front of you. And if the minute staff can just slowly scroll through that, so we can see exactly from there. That's everything. Just go back so you can see 1 to 5. I think. Yeah, they're perfect.
Councillor McGregor.
Look, I rise to speak against the motion as it's been amended. Language is important, councillors. The substance of the words that you put in your motions, the tenor of them, the way that you approach things is very important. Points 1 through 4, I have no issue with. If you had points 1 through 4, you'd get this up unanimously. If you change some of the verbiage in point 5 to make it more appropriate, to make it in line with the kind of leadership that our community expects, you have a lot of professional people here. You have people who are legal professionals, you have business people, you have people who have a long career of professionalism. Look at the wording for point 5. Look at the kind of words that are used. Is that professional language or is that political language? So if this is going to be a council which is going to provide genuine consensus building, genuine recovery, reconstruction and reconciliation for our community, do we want to put pithy little attacks in things, or do we want to have resolutions move through this chamber of substance? So point 1 through 4, fine. If you amend the wording from in some of point 5 to make it more appropriate, you will get this unanimously. Would you rather have something that all people can agree on, or that 8 can block vote to cut the other 7 out? Because that's really what this comes down to. And the way that people conduct themselves in this chamber is very important. The way that you put things forward, the impact that that has on 350,000 people is important. I understand that there's a lot of anger with the state government over the PIO. That's not an issue simply for one side of politics, but it's how you say things and it's how effective you are in doing things as well. And when it comes to the issue of working with the other 6 councils who have these, I don't know the full ins and outs of what's happening at Georges River or Balranald or Wingecarribee or anything like that. I'd be happy to hear it, but it may not necessarily be applicable to our own. So talking about running some sort of joint legal case could very much be jumping the gun. We're all on board with asking for the legal advice, so I think it's very important that we get that. And I think it's also very important that that is independent, given how this has played out for this body and for our community. But when it comes to point 5, do you want to make real change, real difference? Do you want to actually be heard in the halls of power? Or do you want to just yell into the void? Because that's what we're looking at with this motion as it stands.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, just taking on board Councillor McGregor's points, I do agree that if we removed Part C from point 5, that might be of benefit in taking some of that.
It's the condemns, it's the A.
Well, I choose another word. Condemns is pretty close, so can you come up with another word? Or disagrees isn't strong enough. But look, please, I do think we should remove Part C. I don't think that provides any useful benefit. I'm happy to take advice from staff, you, Mr. Mayor, or the CEO, if you could, or Labor colleagues, if they felt there was a better word to condemn.
What we should be doing, and I guess it's very hard early in a council term, is you should either be dealing with this via an amendment, or you should be pretty elegant at your wordsmithing. We shouldn't be trying to draft on the run. But so if you can't be elegant, I'd seek perhaps might be appropriate for Councillor McGregor to move an amendment.
Sorry, through you. Could we just suspend standing orders and take a break for 5 minutes so we could try and build some consensus on some wording? Is there an ability to do that?
Yeah.
I'm happy to move that way if the rest of the meeting wants to go with that, so we can collaborate on some wording.
Councillor McQuaid, you second.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to put it on record. Non-political. My very layman's way of thinking is, it essentially doesn't trust the people of the Central Coast and the ratepayers. What's the point of having an election and having us here if we've got these conditions on us for 1 year? It doesn't make sense for my very way of thinking. I just wanted it on record, but also support Councillor Smith.
Was you seconding Councillor McGregor? For suspending for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yes. A vote to be suspended for 5 minutes. All those in favour? Yeah, unanimous, carried. 8:16, we're back.
resumption of standing orders.
Yeah, just
Move McNamara.
everybody
Second
please be
McGregor.
seated.
Second, McGregor.
Yeah.
We got a quorum. Let's go.
So,
Second resumption of standing orders.
resumption of standing orders. Mover McNamara. Second, McGregor.
Second by Councillor McGregor. All those in favour? Yeah, carried. Thank you. Very nice to see that both sides of the chamber are working together. So, my congratulations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've just amended that part 5 to make it one sentence that Council will put an urgency motion to the upcoming Local Government New South Wales Conference calling on the Minister to withdraw all such PIOs as a matter of urgency and restore local democracy to those councils.
Anybody against? No. Second by Councillor Reaton. Anybody against? No. All those in favour? Yep, unanimous. Thank you. Last item on agenda is, no, second last, outcome of the constitutional referendum. The Council notes constitutional referendum held on the 14th September 2024 was declared. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I did give some wording to the staff. Yes, so I will move that motion. If I have a seconder, I will speak to it.
Councillor McGregor, second.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So part 1 just notes the referendum. Part 2 notes when the changes are intended to come into place. But I think part 3 is the critical part, and what I've deleted is a section in the business paper that starts doing the work of the proposed wards. Instead, I think it's important that the councillors get a briefing on the referendum, including the background to the decision to hold the referendum at all. As many other councillors, I'm sure, on polling day, as people came up to us to vote, firstly, a lot of them didn't know there was an election. Secondly, less knew that there was a referendum, and those that did know there was a referendum didn't really know what it was about. I think that's a poor reflection on the engagement and the communication of the importance of that referendum, the detail of the referendum, and the implications. I note the results, but I do think that we need to have a good understanding of what that referendum means in terms of the level of engagement of our community, the understanding of the community, and importantly, why it was even proposed under administration. I think many people do feel that it was really beyond the remit of an administrator to make such a dramatic and significant proposal to our local democracy here on the Central Coast. I think it's important that we get that briefing and then look at the next steps as a result of that. So I put that motion. Thank you.
Councillor McGregor.
Thank you. Look, I rise to support what's on the screen there, moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by myself, and want to make some comment and go on the record around the referendum. It was quite clear through standing on pre-poll for a week and talking to people during the campaign that the vast majority of voters did not even know that this referendum was on. People were turning up pretty angry that they had to walk up that horrible hill over there to go to that incredibly inaccessible venue. We had people fall over. There was members of the public who were injured having to go there, and then the icing on the cake was the referendum. The referendum was simply the last act of the administrator to destroy local democracy as much as he could. We become the least represented council in New South Wales, the third least in the nation. The only other 3 councils which will have a similar ratio to population, they're in Queensland. They have full-time councillors with staff on over $100,000 a year, and you're going to have 9 people on $32,000 a year to look after a region of 350,000 people plus It is a centralisation of power. It is a disgraceful act which makes it harder for ordinary people to engage with democracy, to engage with this council. This chamber, we were consistently told by the administrator how the ratepayers of the Central Coast, of this region, are the people who are the custodians of this council. They're the people who are effectively the shareholders of the council. Well, guess what? You get even less of a say. You'll have less of an ability to engage civically. You'll have less of an ability for people to get genuine representation. If you have an idea, if you have a community group or an organisation that needs to be supported or wants to empower yourselves through working with council, you'll have less of an ability to do that. All it really was just a smash and grab to centralise power to make sure that ordinary people, particularly ordinary working people, would have less of a say. The other thing which is really important to note with this referendum is the role that it's going to play in the major parties. Now, we were told that there was going to be a surge of independence, and it was important to have a multiplicity of different points of view, of backgrounds, experiences when it came to the kind of people that are on council. All this is going to do is centralise power for the major parties. Now, I'm a representative of a major party, being a Labor representative, but I see it's important that we have true, genuine independence in here, that we have Liberals, that we have Greens if they ever get elected in here. We keep hearing about how there's been Greens in this chamber, but they haven't been here. It's important that everyone in our community has a say or has a representative which reflects their views. When you have 15, or even if you had the 20 that you would have had under the two former councils, it is more representative of what our community wants. And it means that you're less likely to get the kind of rigged and gerrymandered outcomes that are only going to come in future with this reduction that we're going to see. Obviously, it's also important to note that this referendum was binding. So you had people voting on something with no idea what they did. That some of them would go in and say, oh, we thought we were voting for de-amalgamation, or we thought we were voting to have less people per councillor, and they just didn't know. The advertising for this was on bus stops. Now, I know there's a significant amount of people that catch buses, but we need to be serious here. If we're going to be asking people to make fundamental changes to the structure of our government for our region, for the future, potentially in perpetuity, they should be informed about it. And let's look at, where's the evidence base for this? There was none. It was a stupid idea put forward in a disingenuous way, which is going to hamper our civic engagement. It is going to limit ordinary people having a voice and representation in this chamber, and it simply will hand more power to unelected bureaucrats. Furthermore, it makes it more likely that a council is going to go into administration. There is less eyes on the finances, there is less scrutiny, and there are less people in this building who are accountable to you in the gallery because of this decision. I understand that there are some who believe that smaller government is more appropriate, and this was not even really an argument about this. This was simply a takeover by stealth. People did not know what they were voting for, and even if they did, a minority view based in that disgusting theology of Reaganomics and neoliberalism, the discredited way of Margaret Thatcher, has been put forward as if it's a majoritarian view. And we've had 50 years of societal failure because of that. And this referendum was endemic of that decrepit, sick and dying ideology. And it has no place for the future of our society. This referendum is going to have serious problems for our region for many decades to come. And the people who lose out the most are the people up there and the people in the community. It's not the people down here. It's not the people sitting up there on the multi-$100,000 a year. It's a disgrace what that administrator did. And it is endemic of the damage that he has done to this region in his 4 years of destruction.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Thank you. Anybody to speak against? Councillor
Yes,
Eaton.
thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move to speak against, and if the motion is lost, would foreshadow that I'll move the staff recommendation. I won't traverse anything what Councillor McGregor so passionately outlined, and I don't actually have any great problem with anything he said. The only problem I have with this motion is that we're having a briefing that we can do nothing about. It's a waste of council resources. We have got, as we heard today, so many urgent things that we need to be briefed on, that are things that we need to make decisions on. Right or wrong, we can't make a decision to unwind the referendum unless council wants to go to another referendum, which of course then, even if it passed, wouldn't take effect for 8 years from today. What is the purpose of a briefing that will basically say, well, the referendum was crap, and the referendum was crap, but we can't do anything about it? It is a waste of council resources, and I can't support that. As I said, if the motion fails, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Smith, if
Speakers, Mr. Mayor? Or, no? Mr. Mayor, just in closing, look, I have been on council, I've watched council for a long time. I find it difficult to contemplate a councillor even just wanting to stop people from getting a briefing. This is about information. That's the only difference between the original motion in this business paper and this one, is to get informed about the process. You may or may not be right about whether there's worth considering any follow-up action, but if for nothing else, my sense, and this is why I want to know the details, is that it was a pretty appalling process in terms of engagement and communication, and councillors should be concerned about that and they should learn from it. I think we should get an understanding of what that process was, whether what was done by council in terms of engaging, educating and making sure we had an informed community walking into the polling booth, and if we didn't, why didn't we? What could be done better next time? So extremely disappointed if councillors here vote not to get information about the referendum process. That's a pretty harmless part of this motion. So I put the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
thanks, Councillor Smith. Putting the motion of Councillor Smith. All those in favour? So just Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Wright, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Castles, Councillor Lamont, Councillor Stanton, Councillor McGregor, and Councillor Mullen. Carried. And those against? So Councillor McKenna, Councillor McNamara, Councillor Daniels, and Councillor Eaton. So motion's carried. Thank you, Jane. Mrs. Smith. Last item on the agenda is Local Government Conference, New South Wales Annual Conference in Tamworth, which is in November.
Yep.
Yeah, Councillor McNamara.
Move the recommendation with points under point 1.
Yeah, point 7, Councillor.
So I've talked to a number of people.
Yeah.
So if we go this way, the request is that we have the appointments of 7 councillors. So I have 7 councillors on this list, and that would start with Councillor McNamara, Councillor Eaton, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor McKenna, Councillor Lamont, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles. Noted when I was going around, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other councillors that do want to attend. That puts the number at 12. I think council has only reserved 10 rooms at the moment, but that's the indication at the moment. There's a total of 12 and 3 councillors not going. So I'll move the recommendation there.
Second, John, but you've got 8. So the first part.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, okay, did they? Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, no, sorry, I apologise. You're right.
What was that?
Yes, I apologise. It's getting late. But don't we want to also authorise other councillors to attend without being voting delegates?
Has that already been done, or do you just need the voting numbers?
Sorry. It would be better if you moved a motion that said any other councillors who are available and wish to attend can attend as non-voting delegates would be good. And then.
So if we had to make this 2, any other councillors wish to attend, what's the wording? Please notify the general man of the CEO as non-voting delegates.
Are authorised to attend as non-voting delegates.
Okay. And I don't know why he feels he's the spokesperson on behalf of all councillors, but clearly if you're going to look at people on a proportionate basis, the Liberal Party is wildly overrepresented. I suggest that you reconsider, and that we have at least 50% women. I think you need to have some discussion with other people outside your limited political scope. Sorry, I'll dump you in that.
Yeah. There's a motion before the chair, and we've got a seconder in Mr. Eaton. Is anybody against? I've got
Yes,
a
it
seconder,
is.
Mr. Eaton.
Yes, I am.
Councillor Smith.
Mr. Mayor, I do have concerns about this. And look, I haven't done the math, but does that represent the proportional
No, it
makeup
doesn't.
of the 15 councillors in terms of,
No.
the number of libs, the number of labs, and the independents, and I don't know, whatever your group is, Mr. Mayor.
Independent.
Oh, okay. If we could, I think it would be fairer and better representative of our community if there was some reflection of the makeup of our council in terms of the voting delegates. Votes matter, to a certain degree at the Local Government New South Wales Conference.
Have we got an amendment or a foreshadowed motion?
So 7 councillors out of 18. What have we got? 5 Liberal, 5 Labor, and
So equal numbers. We should be equal numbers of the major parties, and then at least 1 independent.
Okay.
So that could easily be adjusted. John, who's such a good organiser, could work out who's not going from his group, and we could change the Labor delegation.
They can still go. It's just it's the voting delegates that's the.
Yes, I'm quite aware.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's an appropriate. I know gag motions are very popular with certain persons in the chamber, but I think.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Councillor Eaton.
Well, I move a foreshadowed motion. If you're going to persist, are you accepting his gag motion, Mr. Mayor? Because I think this is something you need to consider. Whether this is going to be standard operating
I have
practice.
to accept his gag motion.
No, you don't.
But you can accept your foreshadowed one.
You don't have to accept it. You can actually determine that there has been insufficient discussion and that we can find a way through. That is your discretion to do so.
No, I'm sticking with what's said.
Can I make a point?
Councillor, yeah.
The motion, the procedural motion over there is that the motion be put because there's been 2 for and 2 against. There hasn't. There's been 1 speaker for and there's been a couple of questions.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Yeah. So I think you're right in saying that you have to do 2 for, 2 against. Yeah, we've not had. So, Councillor Neil, would you like to speak against?
I'm actually speaking for a foreshadowed motion. I think that if there's going to be some fairness in this process, I think we either send nobody or we send a delegation that properly represents the makeup of this council. And that would be, if you were being a fair and reasonable person, would be equal numbers of the 2 parties and at least 1 independent. potentially two, but as I understand it, there's only one independent keen to go. Or is there two? No, keen to go. So what I would propose is that I foreshadow a motion. Maybe the mover of the motion may accept this, that we have a delegation which is equal numbers of the parties, and that we have at least two independents.
All right. Now speaking on behalf of the motion.
Trent doesn't want to go.
We have a quick adjournment.
Can somebody move quickly?
Yep, Councillor
Seek a
McNamara,
motion to review.
seconded. Councillor
If I can
McGregor.
amend my motion, Councillor McQuaid's name, if you could put Councillor Neal's name in his position, please. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor McGregor. No, the original. Councillor Eaton. Yep.
Yep, let's vote.
Put all those in favour.
Linda?
Yeah, unanimous. Councillor Millen, yep, unanimous. Thank you. No further business. Close the meeting and at 8:38. And I'd just like to thank all the councillors since catching up during the election last week when we came in and done our training before the meeting today. I think there's a good vibe there that we can work together and get outcomes for the Central Coast. So, and I know we're going to disagree and we're not always going to agree with each other, but I think the long-term future of Central Coast is in our hands, and it's everyone here has stood up to take on that responsibility. So we look forward to working together in the future and over the next 4 years. So thanks very much, and speak to you. And there's a cup of tea outside. Was that just upstairs? It's just up the stairs there. So thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.
All right. So our job, Laurie.